In this video, you and I are going to remake Love Me More by Sam Smith step by step.
Have you ever felt like being somebody else? Feeling like the mirror isn't good for your health.
And before I show you how to recreate all those sounds and even how to turn one vocal track into several back vocal harmonies, you need to know that the original song was produced by Stargate and Jamie Nape. So when you listen to the intro, you immediately recognize this sine wave pad. Now, I don't know if you're a Stargate fan like myself, but if you are, you've probably watched a certain interview where Mikael talks about one of his favorite sounds. It's the initial preset from Absinthe 5. It's just sine waves with some modulation, which makes them really wide and soothing. And I think they use that same patch for this song. It fits perfectly. The only plugin in this chain is a distortion effect that stays off all the time, except for the transition to the first verse, just to create some extra harmonics like a build-up effect, but very subtle. Then after a second of dramatic silence, drums and bass join the arrangement alongside this crackling effect. There are many ways to add this vintage crackling sound, or you could simply use a simple recording, but in this case I chose Shaper Box, which has this module called Noise Shaper. Basically I'm just running a synthesizer, playing the initial preset through this effect, but it's set to keep the noise only, so you can't hear the synth, just the noise. And the preset's called Vinyl A-Side. Here's the drum pattern: kick in blue color, close hi-hats in yellow, and snare in orange. I really like this groove because of the dynamics created with the MIDI velocity. There are some quiet kick hits and hi-hats, and that creates a nice contrast with the loud hits. For the kick sound, I'm using Abbey Road 50s drummer. I think that kick has lots of character. Just did some fine tuning with the equalizer and glue compressor. The snare sample is a bit thinner than usual, kinda sounds like a cross stick, maybe layered with a regular snare hit, but it sounds filtered with a bit of reverb. And for the hi-hats, I'm using acoustic hats with the drums humanization method I've already shown you in a previous video, which will be in the cards if you're interested in downloading my free drum Rex to make your drums sound more organic. Now, on that same interview where Mikael talks about the sine wave pad, he also mentioned one of his favorite bass patches, the massive preset called Apologize This. It's a sub bass with some extra harmonics, so it's audible even in small speakers that can't play the lowest frequencies. Maybe that's what they used in the original song, however for this version I went with my favorite bass sound, the Scarby Rickenbacker bass by Native Instruments. And the last instrument before we move on to the vocals is this guitar that's used to fill some gaps and help transition between sections. It's the Electric Sunburst, also by Native Instruments, playing a simple chord, however I'm using this key switch to create that slide down effect. Now, I want you to meet the talented singer that made today's episode possible.
Hey guys, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Tina. I am the featured singer on this collaboration. I hope you enjoy my work. I am very much a novice, just a hobbyist singer. I've never had any professional lessons or anything like that, but it's definitely always been my dream to work in the music industry. So I've recently just gotten the courage to put myself out there, start uploading covers, and start actually learning about music theory and stuff like that. So if you're interested in following my journey, listening to some of my covers, please be sure to click the links that are either going to be on this screen or in the description below.
She sent me a really good vocal track, so it only took a few mixing tweaks to match the overall tone and dynamics of the instrumental.
To sit with sorrow and eventually it has set me free.
The first move was to compress with the CLA2A to keep the loudness consistent throughout the entire song, then a dynamic equalizer to bring it forward in the mix. Here's a before and after.
Have you ever felt like being somebody else? Have you ever felt like being somebody else?
Then there's the DSEQ, catching some resonances. I've also made a video on how to do this. It's in the cards for you. Next, there's the vocal doubler to widen the vocals so they're not sitting dead center in the stereo field. Very common practice in pop music production, but the dry wet knob is at 57%, so it's not too noticeable. There's this reverb chain with the Valhalla Vintage Verb with lots of pre-delay, creating separation between vocals and reverb, making sure this effect doesn't send the vocals to the background. There's also a lot of high cut, which means it's a dark reverb, getting rid of high frequencies like sibilants that could clutter the mix and kill the clarity. This reverb is being sidechained to the dry vocals, which means the reverb gets louder when she's not singing. That's also done for transparency reasons, to keep the reverb from getting in the way of the dry vocals. The original song is heavy on back vocals, but I only had one vocal track to work with, so I had to get creative with this vocoder sound using Vocal Synth 2. Here's how to do that. First, create another track with the synthesizer sound to play some chords. I picked a random Serum preset that sounded cool. Then I duplicated her vocal track and added the vocal synth in sidechain mode. Then I made sure the sidechain signal was the Serum synthesizer track. By the way, that track stays muted so we don't hear the chords, just the vocoder effect. And that's how to create artificial harmonies that sound like a mix of backing vocals and a synthesizer of your choice. I've also recorded some ad-libs with delay effects just to fill the gaps. And here's the final product, but first, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in pop music production.
Have you ever felt like being somebody else? Feeling like the mirror isn't good for your health. Every day I'm trying not to hate myself, but lately it's not hurting like it did before. Maybe I am learning how to love me more. It used to burn, every insult, every word, but it helps me learn self-worth I had to earn. So I tried every night to sit with sorrow, and eventually it has set me free. Have you ever felt like being somebody else? Feeling like the mirror isn't good for your health. Every day I'm trying not to hate myself, but lately it's not hurting like it did before. Maybe I am learning